show her that she can get her feelings out and that, sure, you can disagree. I can appreciate where you're coming from, but not defending yourself at all. And just keep doing what you're doing. People getting divorced,
tearing their families apart, coasting through marriage,
or fighting their way through it. I'm Cass.
And I'm Kathryn.
We came back from the depths of hell to save our abusive, our toxic marriage.
We're Morrow Marriage.
Let's flip divorce statistics with the new marriage. Welcome to the Morrow Marriage podcast, and today we're going to talk about better than roommates and still no sex. Now, I want to be clear about this, honey. I just got off a call with a bunch of dudes, and some of them work so hard to become the most incredible men, to rebuild the partnership, to get things going. So they're not roommates. And the reason I want to be clear about this is so many people come to us and they think we're awesome, and they are just roommates. They are just business partners, and they're not enemies. Like, I believe that there's a whole nother level to you're incredible. You're well beyond roommates is what I mean. But she still just doesn't want sex. Okay. Now I think there's a number of things. I'll tell you what we talked about on the call today, but I wanted to get a woman's perspective to share with my dudes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to remind everybody that sometimes we talk about the subject that we're going to talk about before, and sometimes he likes to spring it on me. So today, just before he turned on the camera, he told me what we were going to talk about, so that you would get like exactly what I think, so I don't have time to think and prepare anything.
She's brilliant. It'll all work out. Now, so today on the call, specifically, like we're looking at men whose wives still hold the past, that they really believe like you just want me for sex. And I have to walk them through, well, no, that's not true. I mean, you're trying to create an environment with a lot of fun, a lot of atmosphere of excitement, of energy, where the mood doesn't matter. Like, you want this connection. And one of the men in particular, like his wife gets really upset. She's come a long way with the work that he's led her through here, but communication, things like that. But she was slamming doors, smashing iPads. Like, there was a lot of nasty stuff. And it all comes down to all you think about is sex. And I know my men don't think only about sex. So can we start there? Can you dive in?
Wow. Okay. Where to start? Okay. So I think, first of all, when people are working on their relationship, sex is one of the big things that people fight about. And so because it's one of the big things that people fight about and that men talk about, and it's something that in general men need more than women remember that that's what they need. They're not going to forget that, oh, my husband needs sex all the time. It doesn't just go away.
What?
Right? Like, if you think about, like, even in our past, even though my husband is as close to perfect as possible.
It's pretty perfect.
Yeah, you're pretty perfect. In our past, I remember the conversations, the constant, why don't you want me?
Well, what can I do to make you want sex again?
Like, how do I turn you on? Nothing turns you on. What's wrong with you? Like,
or the comparisons, like, oh, you used to want to probably have sex all the time for this and for that.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And so when you get healthy and when your relationship gets healthy, if you don't address those things, if you don't straight up tell your wife how you're feeling now, and in a different way. So my husband still needs sex. He's still a man. Yeah, he's still a man. Let's be clear about that. But the way that he expresses himself is very different. Mm-hmm. So, saying, I desire you, I love you, I want to connect with you, I think you're super hot. Like, it's the same, he feels the same way. He just expresses it in a different way. Mm-hmm. And he expresses it in a less selfish way. So,
coming across like, I just need to blow my load
yes.
Right. Yeah.
And not even necessarily that you just needed to blow your load. I never really felt that way, but I felt like it was more selfish. It wasn't completely selfish, but it was, you needed it to make up for other areas in your life that you were feeling bad about. So it wasn't even necessarily that you needed to blow your load.
I needed to feel like I was a man, or I was worth something, or this is so common for men. If you want me, then I know I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Then I know you love me. And they've got this rationale.
Yeah. So I think in the instance, or probably a lot of instances where we're talking to people, the men need to intentionally change the way that they are presenting the message, because the message is probably the same. Men need sex. And, if you're offended when I say that,
it's so valuable to.
Well, they do. It's like the air they breathe. It's different. Some women are like that too, but it is men and women are different. I don't care what you say. If you argue with me, then you can argue with me, but you're wrong.
Show for you.
You're wrong. Yeah, it's probably the wrong show for you. But men need it. Now, if you can change the way that you express it, because the message, and I think I just hit the nail on the head with that one. The message is the same. Your husband is trying to tell you that he wants to have sex with you. And trust me, there are worse things. We deal with much worse than a man that wants to have sex with his own wife. It gets worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
So if your husband is wanting you, that's still a good thing, but your husband needs to change the way that he is coming across. And so with your men that you're talking to, you said you just had a call.
Yeah, I had a call. And so one of the things that you guys,
that's why the wife remembers though. That's why the wife is thinking, you just want me for sex, because she's thinking the way that they used to present the message, and not enough has been done to show what that man actually feels now.
Exactly. Actually, before I go further here, I want to bring up something you just reminded me of. It was like 18 months after I guess clicked and realized I can't just assume because I provide. I can't just assume because I'm a great guy, because I'm making changes, all these things that that I don't expect it anymore, right? And it was somewhere like 18 months later, and then again 6 months later, and both times were like, I just realized you don't have any expectations of me. Like, I can say no. And I remember laughing, going, what? You've just realized this? And it's happened with so many of the relationships that we've worked with, where the men are like, they're like, just like me, totally blown away. But then, after the first time, it was like another 6 months later. And I wouldn't say this happened again almost recently, like where you got almost triggered and felt like it was the past because you didn't feel like having sex. It wasn't like bad or anything.
I can't remember. It's happened a handful of times in our relationship.
Yeah. And you're like, no, I'm just not down. And you felt concerned,
guilty, concerned, worried that you weren't going to be okay.
And that is the expectation hump that we're talking about here. So the first thing that I tell men to do is you got to work your way up the ladder, right? I mean, if you're affected by, I'm afraid to go into the house because what if you're going to be upset today? And what are your conversations like? And we work our way up. We've talked about another episode, so just go back in time here a bit, but that is all in place. And when you have that all in place, like the man on the call today was like, oh man, we just had the most incredible dates. Like, life has been good and their partnership is becoming so strong. Like, this is what I mean, better than roommates. But that fear of him slipping back, if she says no, he's constantly having to reassure. Can you give some perspective on that?
Can you clarify? So he's constantly having to reassure her that he's the new man, that he's the new guy?
No, not reassure of that, but just that it's okay. I'm totally down with it. Like, as soon as she rejected him, he handled it well. He's like, actually, we have got stuff we can do. And he's just like changes direction.
So yes. So I think that's really cool. I think that it's cool that you're teaching men to vocalize that. But here's what I really think about it. And you can tell me if you agree or disagree. When you start having that conversation with your wife, telling your wife there's no expectation, telling your wife that it's okay to say no, you're telling your wife, but in the beginning, you're convincing yourself at the same time. If this is new behavior, it's like that. We used to go to a church that said you can belong before you believe. And that it's the same sort of thing. You can change your behavior before you change your mindset, or you can change your mindset before you change your behavior. There's, it's kind of cyclical that way. But for this, probably what's happening in some of these instances is this man, whoever you're talking about, or all of these men that we're talking to right now, they can go ahead and say, listen, honey, there's no expectation. It's okay to say no, but they might not actually believe that yet. And if there's even a shred, women are
talk about how it can
in the know when their husband
bleeds out.
It bleeds out. And because I know now that you don't have any expectation, you're just cool, which makes me want to do it with him even more, by the way. Because and the other thing I want to say earlier about expectation is, if you're married, okay, let's be real. There is an expectation that you have an intimate side of your marriage. Now, if there's problems there, we do want to work through that, and we want to work, but what we want to work towards is an intimate marriage. Otherwise, you are just great roommates. Like, duh.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you
So
guys
I lost
think about
my train
it,
of thought what I was going to say there. But, the expectation bleeding out.
Yeah, I tell my men that it stinks. You reek of expectation, even though you don't. And this isn't just sex, by the way. I mean, this is like, you're mad because she's scrolling on her phone. We've been there, where I had to learn to communicate that is now a good time. Is curiosity. We use that for a lot of things now, but it is now a good time because she's already busy doing something. So it's important, like Kathryn said, you have to deal with rejection in it. Like, it really doesn't affect you way. I remember one time saying to you, that's okay, I'm hornier on Wednesdays. And I said it wrong though. I said, that's okay, you're hornier on Wednesdays. It wasn't as
and I was like,
of a
pardon me?
I was like, what I meant to say was.
I remember that actually.
I actually panicked.
Yeah, I took great offense to that. I forgot about it, but I took great offense.
Oh man, good times. And so, yeah.
Can we stop for a second?
Yeah.
The reason that I took great offense to it is because my husband is a like a note taker type person. He knows, he looks for patterns and he looks for things. So when he said you're hornier on Wednesdays, I thought he meant it, first of all, because he probably has been keeping track of like when I smile at him and like what he did to make me kiss him, and like because he tries to follow his own algorithm.
Is excited because today Kathryn's going to learn something she doesn't know.
Ooh.
I'm still attentive to details.
Yes.
But I no longer keep score.
Right.
Yes.
That's true. That's
right,
true.
Right.
I wasn't talking about keeping score.
That's what it is though. Like these guys, like when you guys are tracking your wife's period to know when she's horny or when she's not, like get over it. Get over it. Like it's just, you'll live a freer life if you're not wondering where.
If she's horny on Wednesday.
If she's horny. Yeah, you just will. Just so, it came up on the call and I was pretty proud of my guy because they've come a long way. There's a time and place for this, and we won't get into it today, but he ended up saying to his wife, she said something like, well, I told you I would be the one to initiate. And in his case, that would probably never happen, unless he keeps showing up and potentially maybe. And he just looked at her and said, listen, babe, that's a one-sided relationship. That's not going to happen. And I was very impressed with him, very proud with him. But then I noticed that as he was telling his story, he was getting defensive. Mm-hmm. And this is why I think your point is so valuable. That promotes the old guy, the guy with the expectations. So it shows that the expectation is still there. And that's why you would call it's like a shit test. So she might not be intentionally testing him, but when he starts to respond this way and she starts to react to how he's responding, that is, even if it's unintentional, that's a test that you're going to fail. Yeah. And when you fail it, you prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that that there is expectation. Yeah, you basically undermine so many of the changes. So even though you've taken your if it was like us, enemies, to roommates, to good business partners, to beyond, and to thriving marriage, right? So wherever you're starting on this journey, you work your way up. I like that we started at enemies. Yeah, we started as really passionate lovers. We loved each other so much, but then we turned into enemies real fast. It was just such a small fraction of the beginning that I've just said we started as enemies. Pretty much. Yeah. Wherever you're starting in this journey, you have to realize you're working your way up. And it's kind of like a lot of the other stuff we talked about with consistency, integrity, showing up. If you undermine the old 7 positives to 1 negative, right? If you undermine in marriage, it's probably behavior, 70 positives, especially because some of the hurtful things that you said, some of the hurtful ways you've demanded these expectations be met. If you started like a lot of people do, well, you're supposed to submit to the man and the man has needs and if I do this and all that, and you're making it transactional, well, then you're removing all the passion, all of the desire, all of the emotional connection that's needed. So let's talk about, before we finish up here, just real quick, to finish up, I should say. So what I really focused on with the two guys today was making her feel safe, letting them know, letting their wives know in a non-defensive way, because remember, if you're defending yourself, you're not protecting your wife, and there goes your protector card, in a non-defensive way to just let her know, rather than saying, no, that's not, I think about so much more than just sex. Although show her that she can get her feelings out, and that sure, you can disagree. I can appreciate where you're coming from, but not defending yourself at all, and just keep doing what you're doing. What do you think about that? I think that's perfect. And I think that people need to really listen to that, because in those moments when you're trying to be someone and your wife questions it, and it's okay, ladies, gentlemen, it's okay to question, but question in a gentle way, question in a nice way. Don't do it in an attack if you can control yourself in that moment. But when you respond to the challenge or the question, it's really important that you stay away from defensiveness, because that might be your first inclination. And when you get defensive, that will inspire your partner to then get defensive or attack back, and then you're stuck again. And I feel like I say this on every episode. Is that important? Yes, the cycle of attack, defend. Someone attacks and then someone defends, and then attack, defend, attack, defend. And it's very hard to get out of, because both people end up feeling triggered or flooded. Yeah. You say things that you don't mean. You use language that you weren't coming into the conversation to use, and you're hurting more feelings. And then it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's right. Always remember the direction you're trying to go. It's not backwards. That's right. Yeah. All right. We're going to see you next time. Bye. Bye.